France, Germany, Australia, and others in expelling Syrian diplomats after this week's massacre in Syria. The UN says 108 people were gunned down, many of them young children and women. The UN says they were, quote, summarily executed. Mohammed Maselma is a Syrian living here in Halifax who's been active in anti-government protests here, and he joins us on the phone this afternoon. Mohammed, good afternoon to you.
Hi, how are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing very well. Well, you must be pleased, I would assume, with the news that these governments, U.S., Canada, Britain, Australia, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands all taking action today against Syrian diplomats. Good news?
Well, I am, yes, and it's a step in the right direction, even though it's, it took a lot of time for that. It took about 14 months and around 16,000 civilians getting killed for this to take place, but it is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering how much of an impact will this really have on the government of President Assad in Syria?
Well, in the government itself, it's not going to have a huge impact right now. If this happened a lot earlier, it would have had a lot better impact. But right now, we've been asking for months, saying that Syrian embassies outside are just headquarters for the Syrian secret police, and they've been taking information about activists and helping arrest and intimidate them, arrest their relatives in Syria and intimidate them outside so they'll quiet them down, which didn't work and caused a lot of people to lose their life, and they're detained now. But it's not going to have a huge impact on Bashar except on his regime, except that it's going to be, it's just a sign. It's a warning sign to Bashar, telling him, this is the world can't take your crimes anymore, and sit silent.
Now, this massacre, it seems though to have really, again, angered these countries, the Western world. Let's see, over 108 people were gunned down. A UN report says 49 children, 34 women were among those who died, but they're not saying who carried out the most of the killings. What are you hearing from the people that you've talked to back in Syria, Mohammed?
Well, they're saying that what happened is that there was some shelling for that town. That town had held demonstrations earlier on that same day. And then later on, when the shelling started, people went and ran into their homes. It's a district, it's called Howe district in Homs. It's made up of four villages, I think 4 villages there. And people are saying that after the shelling started and people went into their homes, a lot of people get killed in the shellings just because their homes fell on top of them. And when people were hiding inside their homes, the neighboring town, which is pro-regime, and some armed groups from there came into this town, and they went through a set of 8 houses that had basically the same family members in the whole district, and they went and killed people close range and point blank, and they were basically supported by the regime and armed by the regime, those groups, and that's where half of the massacre happened. So the first half was when the town was shelled, and then the second half when those groups went into the homes of the people in there.
So these were executions.
Oh, they used knives, they used close range, like they shot people close range, and they've actually tied up children. The only witnesses that seen this were people who were hiding, children were hiding like in the barn, or there was actually a story about an 11-year-old kid who was played dead and was covered with his slain brother's blood the whole time when the massacre was happening, and they missed him and didn't kill him. And those were the actual witnesses. And any witnesses that I've heard of in there have said that people who killed them were dressed in army clothes, and whatever they were uttering at the time was all like pro-Bashar and pro-regime, and
So you have no qualms who was responsible for this?
Oh, I have no doubt. It was the regime behind this act, and because first of all, the half of the people that were killed were killed by the shelling first, and then those armed gangs went in and started killing the rest of the people. Why would people kill their own? you're not going to go kill your child and cut their throat just so you put them on the news and say, oh, look what happened to me. I mean, it's unbelievable, like, that to hear some people saying, oh, this is Western propaganda, or this is propaganda just to get the West to help people in Syria. Nobody would cut the throat of their own little child, or of a little child, just so they'd go on the news and get some help from the West. And this is not the first massacre that had happened, and not the last too. Like, the world was so angry about this. There is over 1,100 children that have been killed in Syria since like for the past 14 months. And just right the next day, there was a massacre in Haman. Today there are 62 martyrs, including 9 children already just today in Syria. So, and all that done by the regime forces. So this is not the first or the last massacre.
All right. Before we go, we've got just fewer than a few seconds here. Is it time for the West to intervene militarily?
He's been helped by Russia and Iran, and I think, somebody should help the Syrian people. We've not, we didn't expect people to go boots on the ground, but if they don't help the Free Syrian Army, he's going to go down eventually, but it's going to take a lot longer, and we're going to lose a lot more lives.
Mohammed, thank you for your time here this afternoon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Mohammed with the family and friends back in Syria.
An initial offering price that, in retrospect,